Growth. I was just watching some Kenyan Senate proceeding dated, I think 2017, and there's someone who said that it's messy, it's going to be messy, it's going to be noisy with the casualty. I want that one to relate with the dairy farming, but this time not as a business, but you look at the growth in a dairy farm setup. It can be messy, it can be noisy, and it can have casualty. And the casualty in this case, it's your pocket. How are you doing? I hope that one clicks well into your mind about farm growth being noisy and messy. Majority of us like growth. But is it a calculated growth, or is it just natural? Because these are biological animals, they'll have to give birth, so they are multiplying. So generally there is a growth, whether you like it or not. But have you ever asked yourself whether this growth is the one that is destroying your farm? Look at it from this perspective. The heifers in your cow shed, you can consider them as an asset. At the same time, it's a cost. I don't know how accountant can place them, whether it's a cost or it's an asset. Yes, it's an asset. It's because you can sell them anytime you want and you get money. But until the day they give birth, they consume your pocket. They consume the milk sold. So in this case, if it's not calculated, it means their expenditures can go beyond the milk sales. And if it goes beyond the milk sales, the milk profit actually, not generally the milk sales, because that lactating cow, the first priority is to maintain itself. So after maintaining itself, whatever remains, and by maintaining itself, meaning the feeding, the structures, maybe if you are deducting some structures to structural cost, the human, the salaries. So whatever remains, that profit that remains is what your heifers consume. So it should be well balanced that whatever the heifers consume, still there is something that remains as your profit. If not so, look at a scenario whereby the cost of maintaining that heifer, the cost of maintaining those heifers, it's even higher than the milk sales. That means you are on a negative cash flow. If you're on that negative, it equally means you have to dig deep in your pocket. That's where the casualty comes in. So it can be noisy, it can be messy with casualties in them. Think about this scenario. When we did a topic on the dairy startup, when we looked at the dairy KPIs, we said a heifer takes 2 years before it gives birth when K is constant. Meaning, and we also said your mature animals give birth every year. So it means if it was to give birth today, next year time like this one, it will give birth again, and next year but one, when this other one, the first one is giving birth, this one will be giving birth the third time. So if you don't achieve that one, if you don't achieve this one giving birth when it's 2 years, it means there is a time that one single lactating cow will maintain its own 3-4 heifers. But if K is constant, at least it will be 2 heifers, a maximum of 3. Now, anytime, and this is our find out in your dairy farms, anytime there is a challenge with finances in a farm, the most affected cows, they are the heifers. The most affected animals are the heifers. Why? Because you will push the lactating cows to give you more milk and forget the other ones. Growth is very important. And not just growth in the heifers, it's growth and development. So you might be seeing a big, there's growth, but there's not development. That's why some of you have called the dairy networks and you have told you, wait, what is the weight of your 2-year heifer that you are saying has never cycled? Oh no, we have been struggling, but now you have tried. It's 2 years, it's 330 kgs. Oh, and you are worried about fertility. I'm sorry, it hasn't even attained the rightful growth, so even development is compromised. So give it time, the heat will come naturally. That's why most of you have even started to synchronize them, because you're looking at the age, you're not looking at the development part of it. I don't want to delve so much of that, but my message was simple. Anytime there is a financial problems in a farm, the animals that suffer most is the calves and the heifers, and this one we have said is the biggest expenditure in most dairy farm. So what is my message? My message is you should be able to know the heifers to maintain and the heifers not to maintain, and one determining factor, it's whether you have planned your pocket well or the lactating cows have a good flow of money. Growth in a dairy farm can be messy. When you realize that your cow shed is full, you don't have space, but the animals are still giving birth. You have a structural problem. You can never compete with these animals in terms of giving birth. You can never compete with that one. Meaning that at some point you will have to say, my growth is maximum. Let me start selling. We have already said the growth can give you stress in terms of structures. It can give you stress in terms of the feed that animal consumes. Remember, maybe there we said on fodder you budget. And this is something you should learn. I hope you have watched the video of Emiva Dairy Farm, whereby he did a budget. Dr. Kari did a budget for all lactating cows, but forgot to do a budget for the heifers, for the calves. But they were growing. So at one point, their feeding rate was as good as the lactating cows. Meaning that the budget of the lactating cow in shrink. So instead of taking it in for 12 months, it took around 9 months. So he had further struggles for 3 months. Why? Because he never factored the heifers. So it can be a stress. And I hope if you have watched those videos, you can remember about Ruth and Ivy, how they ended up having stunted growth. So in this particular case, whenever you get a heifer calved down, before you make a decision to maintain them, you should ask yourself, does it have a place to stay? That is the cow shed. Does it have a space there? 2, does it have the feed? And does my human resource allow me for that? Maybe when you started with 4 cows, 1 employee was enough, but now they have multiplied to 20 and you still want 1 person to handle them. Or maybe you have been kind enough, you have 2, but it's still not enough. So anytime you get a heifer, ask yourself that question: do I have fodder for it? No. Then let it go. Do I have space for it? No. Do I have money to extend the cow shed? No. Do I have no? Then it's as good as let it go. Do I need to add an extra employee? Yes. If I have to add, is it a worthwhile, or should I wait until I get more heifers so that I can be able to add 1 more employee? So look at it being noisy and messy in terms of those 3 aspects. And remember, the biggest cost in a dairy farm, it's usually the heifers, if it's not well calculated. On the same breath, if you want to make money from a dairy farm, make sure that your lactating herd is over 60% with this non-lactating herd, which is now includes the heifers, the dry cows, the calves. If you keep bulls, and we said you are not supposed to keep bulls unless on those extreme cases whereby there is good returns on the bulls, it should never exceed 40%, unless your farm is on the growth phases and you are not struggling in terms of the finances. That way you can maintain them. But just look at your dairy farm, your current dairy farm, irrespective of the number of cows you have. Ask yourself, if I was to have 60% lactating cows and 40% of non-productive cows, would I be able to break even? Now, what if I increase it to 70%, 30%? What if I do 80%, 20%? And I said, like myself, I want to do 80 to 85% lactating cows, 15 to 20% non-lactating cows. And if it was possible for my case, then I'll do exclusively or 100% lactating cows, because I'm looking at good cash flows. I'm trying to minimize my expenditures in a dairy farm. If you do calculations very well, you realize maintaining that heifer in your farm, you spend nearly 200 shilling per day. Most of you have asked why farms sell heifers at 150,000, and I'll tell you for free, the minimum you'll spend in that heifer in the current market, it's around 120, and you are too lucky to spend 100 bob in a day. What is my message? My message is, in a day in a month you're spending 3,000 to 6,000 to maintain that single heifer. Have you ever done these calculations? Maybe once you do those calculations, and even from your records, it will tell you the kind of hard composition you need to have. It will guide you on the much you spend on that heifer. It will guide you to tell you whether the next calving you are supposed to maintain them. Remember, growth in a dairy farm can be messy, noisy, with casualties, and casualties is your deep pocket. You have to dig deep, and if you have to dig deep, it means it will be hard for you to recover. Until next time, keep it safe. Remember to do the calculations and leave us a comment whether you feel that farm growth can be noisy, messy, with casualties in terms of fodder, in terms of structures, in terms of the last one I have forgotten. Note it down there. Remember to subscribe, and remember to invite us in your dairy farm for consultancy. Our contacts are provided there. Until next time, kwaheri, bye bye.